It's about 10 here in Central Europe, so we are about to start. We have a couple of busy hours ahead of us. I hope you will enjoy this session. Starting to even think about doing a webinar about AI is a challenge, just from the fact that it is so broad, the topic. So where should you start? Where should you begin? So I want to show you something first that I prepared a few days ago, and this is my welcoming to you guys. So let's see what you think about this.
Good morning to this hopefully interesting webinar about artificial intelligence. These first 30 seconds is recorded on my webcam on my computer, and then I am using Reitoft, which is a Ukrainian software that has been developed rapidly also during the war in Ukraine, and this is pretty amazing software, so I hope you like what you see.
See, when I showed this to my wife, she thought that I was crazy because is there any real-time application for this, or is it just for fun? And I will give you a few examples in a second on how this can actually be also abused in a way. And that is maybe one of the things that is important in the perspective of AI, that it is a tremendous opportunity as well as it's a tremendous threat to us. And we will talk about during these couple of hours, we will talk about opportunities and threats, and we will also talk about Hawking's and Elon Musk's warning about artificial intelligence, and why legislation in some countries is further ahead than in other parts of the world, and so on. The reason why I wanted to show you this little piece of software was basically because there's been a lot of software out there for some time where you can basically type and then create some kind of a voice synthesize that can actually be turned into something that can be used as a podcast. The script is an example, and all the softwares and all the links I'm sharing with you during this webinar, I will send to you along with the presentation if you're interested. So I hope that you can use some of this. But to just give you an example of this re-speecher from Ukraine, I downloaded another video that I think you will find also a little bit funny. This is, see for yourself first, and then we can take the chat afterwards here.
Hey guys, here's a short demo of our voice conversion technology. We'll be converting my voice to the voice of Barack Obama.
What we've said consistently is that there has to be a political settlement to bring about genuine peace in the region.
The system captures the idiosyncrasies of how I say something each time I say it. I can say the same thing many times. The same thing many times. The same thing many times. And each time the recording will be correspondingly different. This makes voice conversion suitable for applications where the result should have the personality and range of emotion of a real person.
See, I know that a lot of people out there are afraid for deepfake. You never know when you hear the right voice or see the right video. This company, they have made something. So the video I showed you in the beginning where I was talking with a female voice was basically, as I said, recorded on my webcam here on the computer. Then I took the audio and uploaded, and it took about 30 seconds or something like that to convert it. Then I reattached it to the video, and basically you then had something that could, and without having a customized voice like the one with Obama, you have about 100 different voices to use. And basically what you can do is basically, if you don't feel too comfortable about your own voice, if you are doing a podcast or if you're doing other things, you can use it for that, or you can do it for voiceovers, or you can do it for a lot of different things, or you can even ask other people to read. And what is interesting with this software is that it takes all the nuances of so it has your breathings, it has your fake grammar or wrong grammar like I have, and basically turn that into something. It's not real life, at least not what they're selling right now, but it is something that is definitely something that show off a kind of level of what you can do with computer technology that requires some of the other things that we're going to talk today. One more little demo, which is not from the same company, but from a company called Synthesizer V. And the crazy thing about the next one you're going to see is basically this is a voice synthesizer. So basically you add the lyrics to this Synthesizer V, and then you basically play the song. And I mean, take a good listen to this, because I'm pretty sure that most people, this is in Korean, so I'm pretty sure that you will of course not understand anything, but even if you listen to the nuances of the singing, it's kind of it blows me away, to be honest. But listen here.
ねえほら歌ってるよ風がそよぐ海のそばでねえほら大丈夫みんながそばにいるからいつも探していた本当の自分の姿うまくこの気持ち言葉に乗せられなくていつかはきっと輝けるから今が地味でも大丈夫いつかはきっと自分のメロディーを絶対
So I don't know what you think about this, but I find this well, a technology advance, a technology use that is difficult to even comprehend how it's made. This AI webinar is not so much about just showing off different types of technology, but I wanted to give you a head start on this, because I think that we have all seen ChatGPT, we have all seen DALL-E, and we have seen a lot of these kind of computer-generated images in the public space for some time now, but it is diving into a lot of different areas, not just in let's say entertainment and art, but also in business and how we see things. And that is what I am trying to give you a little bit of understanding of here. For those who don't know me, I'm Morten. I'm the editor of INKISH. I live in Denmark, so I apologize for my Danish accent in case that causes any challenges, and I can only hope that they will invent some kind of real life, real time grammar correction AI, so I can speak more normal English if that comes to it. And I have kids, I have a wife, I love cooking, I like reading a good book, and I have always music in my ears. So that is about me, and if you have further questions, feel free to ask. And now you have to see something that is important. That is the first. Maybe you remember Nicholas Negroponte, who said that everything that will be digital, everything that can be digital will be digital. It has unfortunately laid out as it was something that Benny Lander said, but it was actually Nicholas Negroponte that said that, the guy that started the Wire magazine and is a famous intellectual in the American society. So I wanted to create something that I couldn't find on the internet yesterday. It might be there today, but I couldn't find. So I thought that, okay, we are the first one to say everything that can be AI will be AI. And what does that mean? That basically means that let's say that the technology is out there. So to stop it now is probably not an option. So now the thing is, what can it be used for, and how can we avoid the negative consequences of it? And let's start digging into some of the things that might influence us all the very most. Goldman Sachs have been investigating the expectations to what happens with new technology. And we will dig a little bit into this one. But what is interesting is to think of is that a lot of the technologies that have been developed in the industrial age, or at least from the, let's say, 50s, 60s, post Second World War, has always been for the labor-intensive work. That is always been the craftsman. It's always been the shop owner. It's always been the people on the floor that have lost their jobs due to new technology, which has then given them opportunity for better education, higher paid jobs, and basically create the economy boom that we have seen for since the 40s basically. What is a challenge in many ways when you look at AI is basically that, according to Goldman Sachs and quite a few other sources, the people that will be influenced negatively, I mean, being laid off literally, are the people that are doing repetitive jobs, that are doing rule-based jobs, that are doing jobs that can be automated, so to speak. And if you look at this graph, it's quite interesting to think of that. For example, legal work is 44% of the workforce is seen as non-relevant in the future. And when you think about it, it is like, if you want to make good legislation, it is probably legislation that where you, when you go take it to court, is basically interpreting a law. But if there's an AI that can basically see through all sentences and basically understand the law, then basically you may not need lawyers at all. And if you don't have the need of a lawyer, I would say that if you have a lawyer, then you can just ask ChatGPT about the legal kind of consequences for this. And you might think that this is crazy to consider at current stage, but I tried it on the court case that Heidelberg filed against us, and the answers were like quite amazing, to be honest. I got a many-page document describing the case and the legal implications, and also how to proceed with things. Of course, we are not planning to use that right now, because it seems that we are in a better, let's say, better situation in that respect right now. But just think of this: all the job titles from the 25% upwards are jobs that are supposed to be slashed considerably in the future. On the next slide here, you can see that if you take that and just take a few takeaways from it, as much as 29% of computer-related job tasks could be automated by AI. And I don't know how much you know about computer programming, but computer programmers often use different services to support their work, and one of them is GitHub, for example, where they have repositories and fora where they can discuss and talk about things like that. They have just invented, as part of their offering, an AI that are specifically helping programmers with the programming and the coding of specific projects. And I want to show you, I'm not a programmer, but I want to show you something that is maybe for some of you quite interesting in a moment, about how ChatGPT is used today and how it can use even further in the future. And there are chat robots that are specifically made to help programming of quite a few different computer languages. So that is quite interesting. Then you have a 28% of work is for healthcare practitioners. And if you think of this for a second, why do you even go to a doctor? I mean, if you have a cold, it's always because you have, maybe it's because you have you're nervous, maybe it's COVID, maybe it's a cold, maybe it's a flu, maybe it's that, so you get that certainty of thing. That is because the doctor is able to remember and see all the different stages of your illness, and then can give you the right cure for it. But if he or she is using objectives to make that measurement, AI is a perfect example of it. If you think, I will also show you a little bit later about that, but if you think back when IBM did their first AI, which was one of the first like really big models of AI, was called Watson. It is actually today used in many hospitals for identifying tumors, fractures, all the kind of thing that you can see on X-rays, where it is much more capable doctor of reviewing X-ray photos than a real doctor is. So I think this is a genuine, I think it's it's a reasonable way to think that if we have something that can be automated also in the higher level workforce, it will definitely happen with these kind of things. If you see in the bottom, it's kind of interesting because construction work and maintenance is only 6% to 4%. That is probably just the office works of handling where they're going at what time and what to do and what to maintain, basically. Because if you need a person with a tool, you cannot replace that right away with a computer. But if you look in a very far distant time, it could be so that also robots can be used to take over some of that job. And that, of course, is something that is creating a fear among a lot of people. Just for let's say an extra sentence in this relation, I read an article where just in this year in 2023, 4,000 people in India has been identified as being laid off from their job because of AI. So that is just in the past 7 months, almost 4,000 people has been laid off, where they can say that is specifically because the companies they work in are starting using AI for whatever they use it for. So again, Forbes and Goldman Sachs have spent a lot of time on this. As you can see here, Goldman Sachs predicts 300 million jobs to be lost or degraded by artificial intelligence. And my conclusion is that high-paid jobs are only paid high because it's been a limited resource. I mean, if everybody were lawyers, probably not a very lucrative business to be a lawyer. So it's again supply and demand. And AI will make most of these jobs obsolete, and that will change the perception of value. Because if we go to work and we create value for our business, or the business we work for, and suddenly the people that have long educations, they have less or zero value, then we have to rethink all the ways of how we perceive value, from property to taxation to salaries to everything like that. And that is something that I'm pretty sure a lot of people will have, let's say, difficulties understanding right away here. Before we go into what I want to show you something here. So I will just share my screen here. So let's start with ChatGPT. I hope you can see my screen. Henrik, can you just confirm that my screen is shared? Or can you just write something in the chat? Okay, we can see it. Fantastic. All right, I will go back to my ChatGPT. ChatGPT, I will tell you a little bit about the technology in a second, because basically what I want to show you first is how it can be used. First of all, what I have learned, which is kind of strange, when I type in the prompt to ChatGPT, I don't know why, but I have got into, let's say, a habit of talking to it or writing to it as it was a human, which is a little bit odd. So I always say, please, and can you, and kindly enough help me, and blah, blah, blah. And I don't think it take it too much into consideration. But I want to show you something that was a little bit of, I wouldn't say a surprise, but I will explain in a moment. So here this is live, so I do it as you see it goes on right now. So I say, I have an Excel sheet with the following, labels, like company, contact person, phone number, address, postal code, city, state, when applicable, country, and WW. Can you please make an data structure for how to develop a database with the above info? And as you can see, it has started to generate something already now. So it kinds of break down everything here. So you can see, okay, what do we have here? And so now it comes with the tables for the database. And this is something that is simple programming that most people that understand a little bit about programming will be able to do. It even comes with an example on how to do it in SQL. And when it has finished the creation of this database, you can see that it also comes with instructions to, for example, the varchar fields are arbitrary and you might want to adjust them based on your specific requirements. So that is totally fine. And then I say, I would like you to create a HTML front end. So now it starts with a simple, as it says, a simple HTML front end. So I get the database, and it's the database structure, and now I get the HTML front end, which I can copy and paste directly into the applications I'm using for creating these kind of things. So you can see that how ChatGPT is capable of doing something that is I can't evaluate whether this is a fantastic code from a programmer's perspective, but I know for sure that this works, and it would definitely make sure that a lot of people that are not programmers suddenly can become, let's say, not programmers, but maybe something where they can create something that was normally for the few. So this is an example, and you can see it goes on forever, basically. So now you can see basically has a style sheet and the server endpoint and everything like that. So if you understand these things, I'm pretty sure that you would be able to create something that is well, good enough at least. So this is just like one example of the depth of ChatGPT. But let's take a new chat and just see. Okay, let's see. Okay. How familiar are you with tax legislation in Sweden, for example? And then you can see that it very soon comes up with a summary of what is the taxation in Sweden, for example, right? And again, I cannot say that this is true because I don't know, but it's quite easy to verify these kind of things, because you can basically talk to somebody who knows about it, but you can also think of this as a very amazing way to get, let's say, the basics of what a language model can give you of information. And I think that most people will see this as something that is pretty amazing. I will revert from here to what is AI. We will revert a little bit later to what it is and how it works. But let's talk a little bit what AI is, because there's a lot of people that might think that, okay, this is just lookups, but it is not. AI is a short for artificial intelligence, and was founded as an academic discipline in 1956. And I found another quote basically saying that makes it possible for machines to learn from experience, adjust to new inputs, and perform human-like tasks. And when you think of this, this is basically the funny thing, because ChatGPT is today still the fastest growing community in the world. It adapted, or it got to the 1 million user points faster than anything in pre-release of ChatGPT. And every time I write a question, every time I give input to ChatGPT, it does not only it does not only learn from the language and the text it was inputted before 2021, but it is also actually using now millions of people's input to become better and better. And that is where the real amazing thing about all this thing is. Another thing that is quite amazing to think of is that ChatGPT has only learned what it does based on English text. So when when it came to being able to do different languages, and I will show you that in a second. It taught itself German, French, Italian, Chinese, Japanese, Arab. It was never inputted like this. And that is, of course, one of the things that are people complaining about, that everything is in English context, because that is where it basically learned from. But just think of this for a second. You have a machine that has only been taught in English. And I think it was only like 3 weeks after it was launched, it was relatively capable of being able to communicate in, at least in the major languages. And 3 months or 4 months later, it can process queries and answers in 50 languages. And no one has ever given that input to it. So I thought, okay, that could be fun to try. So I took the German Handelsblatt. I just took the first article on the paper. I think it's even from today or yesterday. I can't remember, because I wanted to be current. And if you look at this, basically it says here, China sets deutsche Wirtschaft in Europa unter Druck. And then I took first the ChatGPT translation, where it says China puts pressure on the German economy in Europe. And if you take the same in Google Translate, it says China is putting pressure on the German economy in Europe. So of course the meaning is the same, but it's more, let's say, condensed, and I think it's actually more readable. And I found some articles where by language people say that in their opinion it's not perfect, but it's still better than Google Translate. And imagine, Google Translate has been used for, I wouldn't say, I mean, almost decades decades for learning these kind of things, right? And then I said, okay, what can it be? Because there's something beyond just the translation of it. Because, for example, if you have let's say, a long translation of something, now you can think about, okay, if you are in ChatGPT, you can just ask it to summarize it. So you can see in this example here, it summarizes it quite good. China's growing exports to Europe are pressuring the German economy, with key sectors being affected. Experts anticipate a rise in competition. So it's, I mean, that is like something that if we were talking with each other, that is how we would basically communicate and break it down to, let's say, a summary. But I mean, I know Handelsblatt, but I was thinking that, okay, there's so many sources on the internet. So is Handelsblatt a good source? So I just asked, is it considered a trustworthy source of information? And now you get ChatGPT's evaluation, again, based on a language model, and it doesn't have an opinion. That is, of course, important to stress. But it gives a little history, it gives a little bit, and then it's considered as being one of the more important media and as a reliable media to talk to or to learn from. So again, here's an example on how AI is supporting and help us in actually creating a layer beyond just the translation, because now we can prove whether the things are right or wrong in that perspective. Let's move on to the next thing, because one of the big questions, of course, why do we need AI? And AI, as I told you before, it was invented in '56, and it ran out of funding. And I also think it ran out of computer power, because this is quite heavy on consuming CPU or GPU space. So I think that was maybe one of the reasons. And it is only back in 2012 there was from universities a growing interest in actually getting things on track again. And when companies like Microsoft pays a shitload of money to buy ChatGPT, there is probably only one reason, and that is, I would say, unfortunately, I mean, I understand that all of us lives from revenues and making money, but I think that sometimes it's too much only focusing on this. But the chatbots, the ChatGPT, and the integration into different services is typically, and I would say almost 100% certain that it is to convince consumers and customers to buy more. The thing is that if you look at the the post-industrial time here, we are in a situation where people don't need much. So now the money that consumers have, they need to be distributed, and that's why advertising and how also influencers are being used more and more. And then I made this little one here because I thought about, okay, how is it with AI in our daily lives? And actually, this is not like I mean, there's more to it than this, obviously, but I couldn't help think about that it is quite interesting because I think most of you know the icons. First, we have Google Assist, then we have Siri, then we have Alexa, Bing, Google, Shazam, ChatGPT, DALL-E, Netflix, YouTube, Spotify, X, former Twitter, Tesla, Meta, which is Facebook and Instagram, and TikTok. Only 2 are not Americans here. Spotify is Swedish, TikTok is Chinese. But if you look about the majority of the companies that are leading the AI revolution on a consumer level, at least, only American companies. And that is, of course, due to the nature and the culture of American society and the size of the American economy. But I think actually this is something that is interesting and something that could be also for interest for the rest of the world to basically dig into and understand a little bit more, because this is important, right? If we think of these services and think AI, you might think, okay, why is this AI, and what is the difference between search and AI? Basically, today search is kind of AI because basically you have to structure millions and billions of pages and information, and you need to get that done fast. And if you think of rating on, let's say that you go on your Spotify and you listen to music, and then now you get recommendations for your music. Basically, this is based on an AI engine that say that, okay, this music is similar to this music, and he likes this music, so we serve that on a list. And I must say that I am totally surprised every week when I get my weekly recommendations from Spotify, how accurate they are, even sometimes when they are so different from what I normally listen to. It still hits me, and that is what I think is amazing with it. If you think of TikTok, I don't know if you tried it, but I installed it once on my phone, and I had to deinstall it because it is so addictive. Because I mean, it gives you, if you have first you clicked on one cat, you get cats the rest of your life, and of course that is to keep people around the advertising space that almost all of these services are revenuing from. And maybe you can also understand that when you look at these companies, fierce competition, and they are all addressing the same markets, the markets and the consumers where they want to revenue from. So I think there is interesting things going on, because last week I wrote an article about based on interesting guy G from the UK, who wrote an article about 0 clicks. And basically, if we're not buying anymore, we're not clicking advertising anymore, then what? And all these companies, they have also solutions for that, because they become content creators instead. So that is something that I think is quite interesting to have in mind as well. So let's move on to the next thing that is important here. Legislation and why, because I took the photo here of Stephen Hawking when he was still alive, because he and Elon Musk and a few other leaders in the industry came with big warnings about deep learning and artificial intelligence, mainly because they believe that it can outperform humans in intellect. And I found this highlight from an interview. I should have brought the source, I can't remember right now, but nevertheless, the question and the first part of the answer is quite interesting. Does AI, if left unregulated, spell the end of civilization? And then the answer is, we don't really know how to accurately communicate to AI systems what we want them to do. So imagine I want to teach a robot how to jump. So say, hey, I'm going to give you a reward for every inch you get off the ground. maybe the robot decides just to go and grab a ladder and climb up, and it's accomplished the goal. But as the rest of the article says, basically that was not the intention. And one thing is having a robot jumping on a ladder and getting, up in the air. That is one thing. But what if it is our economies? What if it is weapons? What if it is self-driving cars, where we don't know exactly what they want to do? We're going to talk about ethics in AI in a second, and that touches a little bit upon the cars as well. So I think that there is definitely a need for some kind of regulation in this market, because if you throw something into that has unknown, let's say, consequences to the societies and to humans, it would be nice to have some kind of control. But I can't help think about, is that at all possible? So if you look at it first, China, the US, and Europe are in progress. India and Brazil as well, by the way, of regulating the AI, let's say, technology. And I couldn't help think about, okay, but if you have something that is learning by itself, how can you then regulate it? Because if nobody knows how to explain to the AI what it is supposed to do, according to my previous slide, and now they say they can regulate it, how would they regulate something that they cannot predict the outcome of what they're saying? So I said, why not ask ChatGPT? And it's not because I use ChatGPT a lot to do these kind of things. And it basically says, yes, legislation and limitation of AI is possible. And then it gives a few examples. But what I really like is that the summary, and that is what I highlighted here. In summary, while legislation and limitation of AI are possible, they require a multifaceted, globally coordinated approach that balances technological advancement with ethical considerations and societal safeguards. And to me, that reads, no, it cannot be regulated. Because if you look at the world right now, terrorists, they don't care about these kind of regulations. So if they do AI and program something that they want to do for their own good, I don't think that any regulation can do that. Or if we have a war like we have now with Russia, and they have clever IT people as well, why on earth should they not use all the power they can to do this? So I don't think it can be regulated. It doesn't mean that it should not be tried to, because there is economic, financial, ethical, moral issues that needs to be regulated. And of course, it's like if people know that you can't drink and drive, and some people do it anyway. So that is the same, that if you do regulation here and people violate that legislation, of course they know that they have done something that they can't do. But nevertheless, that is something that we need to address somehow. And it is interesting to see how that it will influence the everything that we are doing in our industry in the future. Next, AI ethics. I think it's great here because UNESCO, United Nations, UNESCO, they have made a case study of 4 examples of how AI can end up in an ethical dilemma. Actually, I tried the first one because the first one says that if you search for, let's say, schoolgirl on Google, image search, you may end up with all sorts of sexualized costumes. And surprisingly, if you type schoolboy, it will not be sexually orientated and things like that. And when I read it, I thought that, okay, that to me makes sense, that there is a dilemma here. The fact is that when I tried it on Google, it was not the fact. Actually, the results on image search using those exact 2 phrases were non-sexual, where all of them were like having kids in school uniforms. So maybe there was a, let's say, untried, biased perception of it. But that doesn't change the fact that there could be ethical things and dilemmas that is needed to be taken care of. Then you can see that they have also made it about all in the court of law, and AI creates art. And then I have put a red arrow on the autonomous car. And that is because if you think of it for a second, an AI, it must take decisions, and this is an example that has been described hundreds of times. If a car goes down the street and it is about to hit a person, but it can change its course, but then it will hit two persons instead. Should it then hit one person or two person? And if you have like cameras all over the place, should it then go for young or old or disability people? Or I mean, so the dilemma here, the ethical dilemma here, is that by a computer and an AI at some point might be held responsible for a choice it took, and the programmers might be the ones that are responsible for that choice. Or it learned from what we write in the newspapers and in the news, what we think is the more ethical or right way of doing these kind of things. And think of this for a second. I don't want to be put in a situation where I am sitting in a self-driving car, and then it ends up that I have no choice. I have to kill somebody. That is something that is a huge dilemma, and something that is needed to be taken into considerations in all aspects when you do things in the future here. Next, because one of the things I said in the beginning is that sometimes it's extremely difficult to pick and choose the information and find out, because there's so many things to AI today. And I actually found this guy, Matt Wolf, that I started following on YouTube. He has, I wouldn't say daily, but a few times a week, he has a daily news update on AI, and he seems to be very well informed about what's going on, mainly on more maybe less consumer level, but there's also machine levels. That was where I found this synthesizer V about that singing girls from Korea. So that is just like one example. And he has this website called futuretools.io, which is a site where he has, I think there's hundreds, if not maybe 500 services categorized into different categories, so you can easily find something of interest, which is of course always nice. And I just want to see, hang on for a second here, I just want to see, okay. So one good source that I can recommend, and then before we go to to something that is maybe more relevant and more specific to the printing business, I want to show you something. Just close this one and open here, because let's see. I forgot to upload it. Hang on a second here. I will show you that a little bit later. I want to do something else instead. I will find this, because I showed you the ChatGPT right now. I just want to show you another website this is also live. So now we are on a website called Runway ML, and ML is for machine learning. And this is actually a little bit crazy, to be honest, because basically you have a lot of things that can be. See if I just found I did one a few days ago here. This is generate videos. I just thought I had like assets. So okay, that was yesterday evening. I exported this one. This is it's actually a prompt. So this is generating video based on different prompts, and in the free version you can only use it for 4 seconds, so it has not much value initially, but it shows some of the power. So and it also shows some of the things that is typically not relevant right now, because basically I asked it to make a film about a printing machine that was vanishing in the dunes in the sunset. So, but you can see here, so this is generated from a prompt. So this is regardless, I think it looks computer generated, but I think it looks really awesome. And basically, you can do several 4 seconds and then just patch them together if you like. Now just let this loop for a second. So first of all, I don't think it looks like a printing machine. Secondly, I actually asked for 2 palm trees as well, which it didn't give me. But every time I do something like this, it just surprises me, because Runway ML is actually not so much about, it's also creating content like this, but this is basically where you can take a film from your phone, you can upload it, and then you can say, please create a Hollywood style editing of this video. You just type that in and it basically does it. And you can even say, can you please put subtitles on it in English, and it will do it. So here you write and have a prompt just like in the ChatGPT, but it has an influence on your video editing. And when you do that and see this is, to be honest, a little bit crazy. So I just wanted you to see that as an example. Another thing I would like to show you before we also go to something else here is DALL-E. DALL-E is also OpenAI. So here you can basically, let's see here, you write, it doesn't take so long time with still photos. So I would just say that, okay, show me a print operator in an old building from New York, 1930, printing an art poster, for example. And then you click generate, and maybe you have tried all these things before, and that is totally okay. So it takes just a few seconds to do this. It's not so time consuming. And now you get, you can see that you get something that looks from the 30s. It may not look like a photo, but if we take the first one and I just click on so you can better see, it doesn't even look like a person. But if you use it for illustrations, I don't think it's too bad, and it actually looks nice. And that is an example also that if you look at these examples, now there are printing companies today that uses DALL-E as part of their offerings, so people can enter the words of DALL-E directly on the website. We interviewed a guy from Holland that did that, and now he sells posters that are unique, because if I click generate again, it will generate entirely new images of the same prompt, basically. I will just show you this one, and then I will move on to something that is also pretty amazing. So you can see it has kind of same style, but totally different, right? Now I want to show you something that is quite amazing also here. That is, there's something called, it's called Outpaint. And that is basically painting things that is not in a, let's see, in a photo. I'll just see if I can find a JPEG here. I should have plenty of them. So let's see, where should we take? You can see I have a few photos here. So let's take this photo here. Now I say this photo I would like to use, and then I can see that I have, this is the limitation of my photo size, is this one. But I would like to see what is actually going on in next to it. So now I say it's a rainforest. I think it's in 2 words, rainforest, with a lake and some fishing people, and generate. And now it does, first it interpret what you say. Now you can see the blue line here is now expanding as the time passes, and in a second you will be able to see another 10 by 1025, 24 by 1024, and now you can see here it is. I wouldn't say that the lake with the fishermen, but you have like a few. See this one, you can argue. See this one is maybe, so let's say that I accept this one. You can basically see that now I have something that if I take it to the other side and say small village in the rainforest. You basically generate content around the image you created. You can see I had an overlap because then it remembers a little bit from the photo that is my initial one. And of course, as you can see now that this is, let's see, now it's coming here. So now you can see there's a village here. I'll take this one. Now you can see that basically what I have here is a photo. And if I download it, just do that now. Let's see what happens now. You can see that if I crop this one to the image, I don't think that if you use that for an article or something that anybody would question that this is a real photo. And that is just an example again of what is possible to do with the new technologies that are based on AI, and I just think it's amazing, to be honest. So let's see. I should get back to my webinar here. So, oh, and Royce is writing he used this for drone footage as I don't have a drone. See, that is a great example on how you can utilize technology to the next level in case you don't have the technology on hand. So let's just move on to the next chapter here, because how can we use this in our industry? PricewaterhouseCoopers, or PwC, they made an introduction to implementing AI in manufacturing, and that report was written, I think it was in 2020, so it's already kind of old in many ways. But I read the report, which is not a very in-depth report, but it's still good because it gives you a few things to consider. And if you download the presentation afterwards, then when you click on this link here, it will download the report, so you can basically download and read it for yourself if you're interested. The reason why I took this page up for something that I found interesting is because it basically talks about there's like, let's say, 4 levels of if you are a new beginner to technology and AI, then of course your skill set needs to improve and get further before you can go on with this. So there are 4 different levels, you can say, and on the other side you will see 4 different ways of using AI with humans, without humans, in different scenarios. And this is the thing that of course you need to think about if you want to implement AI in your company. I think from the conclusion I have from reading these kind of stories from consultant companies like PwC is basically that I don't think you have an option. I think that if you don't really are considering having a very special niche where you just want to be more or less yourself, which is a niche of course, but if you want to be a printing company of size and importance in the future, you have to adapt. You have to adapt, maybe not just AI itself, but the digital transformation. And I think that almost all vendors today have a very well-developed technology for being let's say a component in your digital transformation strategy. If you're interested, let me know. But I wrote an article about digital transformation because I realized that one of the things that I couldn't find anywhere else on the internet that people have forgot all about when we talk about digital transformation. We talk about the digital transformation as implementing digital technology, as using digital wherever it is possible to use it. But one thing that is not so many is writing about, that this is more like a human and labor challenge than it's a technology challenge, because in most printing companies you have different genders, different ages, different backgrounds, different cultures, different knowledge level, different school and skills and things like that. So if you want to have a company that is deeply involved in the digital transformation, you simply need to understand where people are in your organization, because you cannot just expect that everybody has the same knowledge or on the same page as let's say the management is. So basically you need to have those kind of considerations set. Yeah, you know what I mean. So that's it. So and in our industry there are companies, I just want to bring a few to attention here. On the left side, you have Ultimate Technographics. That is let's say the first company in the world that did digital imposition of print. They are deeply integrated into AI now and doing for nesting and a lot of other things. Tilia Labs, which is now owned by ESCO, also a company that has used AI for many years. So this is just two examples of AI. There are 100% certainly more companies in the AI business in the printing industry. But AI is also into the hardware of things. So on the left side, you see the MPO have been tremendously successful with the Gobo Stack, which is a robot arm based on Universal with a gripper that can take, finished signatures out of the binder, the folder, stack them on a pallet, and I think that the next step is probably that it can take it from the pallet and put into the binding machine, but that is just a guess. The other photo here is from SurePack in Galeen. We visited them last year. I actually made a few clips from there so you can see how much they are doing this. So the first thing you see here is a route for all the AGVs. So you can see there's actually one person in a truck, but the rest of them is basically robotized. So these blue pallets are automatically transported between the machines. So the operator basically doesn't have to leave the machines because plates, die forms, paper, finished paper is automatically brought from machine to machine. Here comes out of the Bob's machine and basically on these conveyors put into the AGV, which takes it for drying position. Now it's in the high bay warehouse where you basically there's no humans there, and you can see it is it's tall. There's a lot of pallets there, and now we're back to the let's say the layout of how things are working. The company in Galeen, they claim to be the most automated printing company in the world, and I tend to agree with them. But then I was with Tim in the Czech Republic last week, also a packaging company which is extremely automated as well, much larger than Galeen, and an amazing factory. So people are using different types of technology where AI is a dominant component in making it possible to operate at all. So I think that is just a great thing. Also, maybe some of you know already, but as I showed with the DALL-E and some of the websites around, the content creation part of the printing industry is definitely also taking advantage of as you saw, the things that are generated by DALL-E is not maybe the most, let's say, fantastic photorealistic thing. So that is not what you use it for. But if you find, let's say, your little niche where these kind of designs are great, that will work out great. Then I have Luca and Canva as two examples of how they use AI for building brand collections of your thing. I don't think it's very complex AI, but nevertheless, it's something that is very convincing for the brands and for the people using these services, because first of all, it makes the process of making a design much easier, but it also pushes people towards buying more. And remember, I said in the beginning that a lot of these services are all made because they want people to buy more, of course. So I did this one here, and the length of the bar has no relevance. It's just an example, because I think that what we will see in our industry and in the future is that all the elements of our production can basically be taken over by AI. order intake. It's funny because when you search for AI and order intake or the printing industry, you basically get web to print solutions as a dominant suggestion to this. To my knowledge, I don't think a lot of the web to print solutions today are very AI in that sense, because it is more like commercial transaction kind of e-commerce platforms. Nothing bad about them at all, but I have not seen any of the platforms yet auto-generate products according to people's needs, or auto-generate job tickets for the printing company. I think that everybody who's invested in web to print know it is a long time process and a hassle to get the web to print shop up running. So maybe there's an opportunity there. Pricing. Interesting to see, because as some of you may know, my favorite topic when we talk about the printing industry is actually pricing, because I think that all the solutions out there are wrong, so to speak, and I hope I will be proven wrong tomorrow, because tomorrow we have a 9 hours webinar about pricing and MIS, sorry, not pricing, about MIS solutions that helps you with pricing. I think there's a lot of space for artificial intelligence here as well. In the pre-press, we have seen it. We just saw Telia Labs and Ultimate as an example. In the planning side, definitely. IoT, definitely. In the invoice accounting, what is the need for accountants and people in administration if everything is rule-based anyway? I mean, so the consequences in all the printing companies that we are working in is vast, and it cannot be underestimated how it will influence the future. I actually in 19 wrote an article. I still think it is extremely relevant, so I took the liberty to quote myself, saying that printing companies become factories and value creation happens elsewhere. The funny thing about that is basically that there is a democratization process where the pricing in the industry goes towards the variable cost, which basically means that if that is a fact and people get more and more efficient and they give the profitability gain to their customers, so the prices get cheaper and cheaper in a decreasing market in some segments at least, basically somebody else makes the value from the design, from the communication, from the taking advantage of the printed. And that is something that I feel that is let's say very, very important, of course. So I said to myself, okay, this webinar is about AI, and it has gone way faster than I anticipated. So, but that is good. Then we can go back to our real work afterwards, right? So I said, okay, I asked ChatGPT, very simple question. So what is the future of the printing industry? Do we have a future? And I think this is a wonderful almost end. The key for printing companies is to remain agile, adapt to changes, and look for opportunities within challenges. By blending traditional expertise with new technologies and trends, printing companies can carve out a space for themselves in the digital age. This is a great non-answer because it doesn't really say much. So I took also the 15 bullet points, and if you look at them, adapt to digital, personalization, diversity service, sustainable printing, educate clients, niche markets, quality over quantity, stay updated with trends, tech trends, e-commerce and web to print, networking, collaboration, expand globally, continuous learning, invest in research and development, community engagement, and manage cost is exactly what the industry is talking about right now. That is all of these words are something that we meet every day when we make films from companies around the world. So this is definitely something that is not just on a, let's say, an AI agenda, but something that is taking place. And that gives me so much confidence in the industry, because some of the answers that is just in front of us, we are already doing. And every time I come and see some of the printing companies in all segments, I always feel so pleased, because this industry is thriving and we have a fantastic future. And I think AI is an eminent part of it in the future, which we cannot avoid, or we shouldn't avoid. We should embrace it. And of course, have the skeptical glasses on, so we always consider to do what is right for our customers and our business and our employees. So with that said, I just want to say thank you, and I hope you have enjoyed the session. And now it's time for a Q&A. If you have any questions, I can answer. And Royce, he writes the first question here. I think that AI, or maybe more statement, I think that AI will democratize the design process, allowing all levels of skills to be equalized. And this will help companies. AI cannot make a non-creative creative, but it will allow those people a starting process. And I think that is totally right. And I forgot one thing when we spoke about and that refers back to you, Royce, is basically that a lot of people that have been writing about AI, they have, when it comes to the creative tool, saying that it's not there yet, but it's a really good inspiration to use for inspiration for my creative process. And I think the biggest mistake you can probably do is think that it will not go in that way, because it will not make people creative. But if you think of how many people that buys a logo on Fiverr, I'm pretty sure that they will be as happy if it's created by AI. And that is maybe the bigger issue, is that if we cannot really identify the value creation we do, then maybe it's a little bit more complicated. Someone is typing. Come with the questions, please. And by the way, I just want to, as usual, we will make this webinar available as a replay afterwards. And I hope you liked it. I think it was fun preparing it, and I hope you like listening to what I have found out, of course. Okay, Royce is accurate. That's great. Thank you, Royce. One bottleneck in digital printing was the speed of the machines. And now it's the RepPro people that cannot feed the machines quick enough. What do you think about this? Good question. Let me start with a little anecdote. Last week, as I mentioned, we visited Tim, which is a large German packaging print converter, and they have an operation in Czech Republic. So Chick and I went to visit them, and I asked almost the same question as you're asking right now, Royce, because I said to him, so where are your bottlenecks in your production? And he said, well, we started having a folding carton machine that was not so fast, so we could not feed enough cardboard into the printing machines we had. Now we bought a new corrugated machine. Now that is much faster. It is actually so fast that now the bottleneck is on the printing machines. And I think that in all technology, it is, unless you start an entirely fresh company, it's impossible to change all your technology in one go. So therefore, you will always experience different bottlenecks at different times, but it will change according to your investment. And I think the most important thing you can do is basically make sure that you have an investment strategy that both serves the quality and the SLA needs, the service level agreement needs you have with your customers. But I also think it's important that you always identify your bottlenecks, because if you identify that, let's say what you write here, that the RepPro people are not good enough or fast enough for the machines, basically you have to consider whether you need more RepPro people in order to do that. And if that's not valuable enough, then of course you should look into automation first. I cannot imagine a situation today where, if you talk about the RepPro of getting the print ready material to the press, regardless whether it's analog or digital equipment, I cannot imagine a situation, at least in the developed countries, where the RepPro as such is a bottleneck. I can imagine that you have printing companies that have not invested in the right technology to avoid the bottlenecks in RepPro. But if you look at the software available today for making very viable workflow solutions, not that expensive compared to the gain you have. And if it's repro people in the situation of people that corrects design or part of the creative process, oh yes, then it's something that you should consider, because some of the bottlenecks in the industry is also that if you don't have enough work to employ them full time for, then it becomes too costly. So now it's about outsourcing to people that can actually have a scalable level of resources for creating the creative part, in my opinion. And somebody is trying time again. Oh, that was Roy saying thanks. So with that said, if there's no more question, I'm actually happy that it is over now, not so much because it was not I didn't want to talk for 2 hours. That I didn't absolutely wanted to, but apparently I didn't prepare for more than an hour and 15 minutes. So Tim Cox is saying, with the speed and diversification happening within AI and all it touches, it would be good to encourage everyone with the print and graphics art sector to share their thoughts, insights, and perhaps INKISH could provide an independent, ongoing shared update, maybe every 6 months or so. That's a fantastic good idea. I have to think about it a little bit, because I think that it's a kind of funny thing, because if you want to have something, if I understand you right, Tim, I think you want to have something where you basically have like a measurement for whether the industry is developing in the right direction. That requires a lot of data that is not, as far as I know, not available right now. I think that a lot of people and a lot of companies, especially the ones that are thriving, they invest in technology like your own cloud printer, but also in some of the software that I have suggested today, like Ultimate Technographics and Tilly Labs, as just 2 examples. And we often come to printing companies today that don't have any repro. We even come to printing companies that don't even have estimators anymore, which is sometimes a big surprise for me, because I mean, how can you be sure to get enough work if you don't have people that can give you accurate quotes, also relevant and relating to the competitive situation? But that's a fact. We're working with a huge Italian company that is based on frequently negotiation about terms, like more like paper prices, per page prices, per binding price, and then everything else is automated from there. I also think that when we talk about cloud printer, you have also like a price model for how you work with you guys. So okay, and Tim is following up. The problem is there is a way of generic AI info, but nothing that takes a print and graphics art bias to help the industry. I agree on that one. That we will help with, because that is part of our responsibility as a media, is trying to bridge technology as well. So that is for sure something that I can promise you that we will try to, with the limited resources we have. Royce writes here, it's worth keeping an eye on conferences coming in the near future in Germany and Cambridge, as they are starting to discuss AI in the digital print industry. So that sounds fantastic. Royce, do you have any like links or anything that we can share here? Because I'm not specifically aware what you're talking about here. If you go to that website I told you about, future2.io, that guy Mark, he is also writing about AI events. But to get back to Tim's saying, these are not specific to the industry, to our industry. So okay, so we have TCM and the Surface in Motion and the Future Print Tech. Alrighty, I was not aware that Future Print Tech was specific about AI, but I will look into it and basically make sure that we put it on our INKISH calendar, so everybody can. And there's a DEPA Academy where they will also be discussing AI. So I think there is a few things for me to follow up on when it comes to AI and also these conferences. And I think that we will definitely make films about AI. We will definitely also make stories on INKISH News about it. So I hope that will be something that people will consider reading and hopefully consume with pleasure, as I hope you do with most of what we do. So again, Thank you very much for your time here on INKISH, and thank you, Royce. And I think it was. I tried to do it a little bit with a few hands-on, but a little bit more about the legislation, a little bit about the challenges we see, and it's always different views on how we do things, but this was our approach. So I just want to thank you very much, and till next time. And remember, if you want to learn about MIS systems, we have live on INKISH TV from tomorrow at 9 in the morning till 6:30. I think it ends at 6:30 tomorrow evening. 9 hours of MIS systems with live demos and presentations by 9 different vendors. It's free. You can just join us if you want. There's no registration is required. You just jump in and well, thank you guys, and have a wonderful day.